Hello. What makes you smile every day? So just in case you guys haven't been paying attention on the Facebook page, I've just been so busy the last month or so. I haven't had a chance. I've been meaning to post things. I've taken some pictures. It's been a lot going on. But I do want to thank you because when about a month ago, I reached out to you guys and I had 2 video clips for my 90-second pitch submittal. And I posted both of them, and surprisingly, you guys picked the one that I didn't think you were going to pick. They were very similar. I sent it in, and I did get selected to participate in the regional's final pitch competition for WeBack. And they selected 10 people out of hundreds of applicants, I understand. So I was one of the 10, and we pitched on yesterday. We had 60 seconds only on yesterday, which was kind of interesting because they had to submit a 90-second submittal, and then they chopped off 30 seconds for the pitch. So the big thing was not going overboard. So that was on yesterday morning when I had a million other things going on yesterday. And I got selected. They picked 3 people to represent the region in the semifinals, which will be held in Philadelphia in October. And they also picked 2 alternates, just in case one of the 3 or 2 of the 3 won't be able to make it. So I did get selected for the top 3. Yay! Got $1,000. And the semifinals, again, will be in Philadelphia sometime in October. I believe they are sending 3 people from 5 to 12 regions, so it will be 15 to 40 people or so, and then they're going to select another 10 to go on to the finals, and the grand prize in the finals is $50,000, so be praying for a sister. So thank you for that input. Of course, I flipped the thing that you told me that I submitted for the submittal. I kind of flipped, and I actually did more. Well, I took the talking points from the ones that you voted on, but I decided to wear something different and not the fitness outfit. So at the last minute, I decided on that. However, today we've been moving along, and I have been meaning to just take a moment and one Thursday to sit and have a conversation with you about how's it going. You know, most of the times I have the camera reversed, so I do go back and take a look at your responses, comments, and questions and address them at a later time, but I can't visually see it right now, and my intent has been to flip the camera around like I had it yesterday for the pitch competition so that I can be really live with you and see where we are and see if this is helping. Is this helping you guys? To see if this has been beneficial? We've been at this for a minute. We are rolling up on 2 years come January. Can you believe that's the end of the summer? It just makes me so sad when I think about that. So today is a little different because I am exhausted mentally, physically. I almost want to grab the stool and sit on it because I'm just tired. And then I have a lot to do for the rest of today and tomorrow. I'm going flying in the morning. I was canceled on Monday due to rain, so I'm really trying to get this done soon. And then I have a tennis tournament on Saturday. I have the quarterfinals, and I will be in the semifinals on Sunday, and the finals are on Sunday as well. So, got a lot going on, so let's just kind of move through this. And this is going to be a good cooking demonstration or food preparation demonstration because it's one of those times where I'm just like rushed every day this week. I soaked and sprouted some chickpeas like at the beginning of the week so that I could make some raw hummus. And as you can see here, I must have put them in a refrigerator when they were still somewhat damp. So the tails are like growing out of control, which means it's going to have a different flavor to it. So it wouldn't be appropriate for the hummus that I wanted to do. So I'm going to show you how to do some raw chickpea burgers today. So that's going to be exciting. Love this passage. I love everything in the Gospel of Mark. Again, we're focusing on Mark because Mark teaches us what we have to do to be disciples. It's an action gospel. It's short, it's to the point, it speaks to the actions that are taking place in all of the scriptures. So today we're talking about Jesus healing this synagogue ruler's daughter. And so it literally takes up the passage goes to the end of 5, as a matter of fact. So we're at Mark 5:21. Mark 5 ends at 43. And basically they're focusing on this story of healing this girl that was near death. So we're not going to do the whole thing in its entirety. We're going to take this into pieces because each piece has a different focus to it. And so today's focus, as you see in your heading there, I'm asking the question, when you hit rock bottom, where do you go? What do you do? What does rock bottom look like for you? It may not be rock bottom in the sense that we think of rock bottom. Typically when we say rock bottom, we're talking about maybe substance abuse to some degree, and a person just gets to a point where they've just, been through rehab a few times. Just rock bottom. But I guess I want to say, where do you go, what do you do, what are your thoughts, what's happening with you when you're up against the wall, so to speak, when you know you need some help, help is available, you know where you can get the help from, but because of the type of person that you've been, or the comments that you've made, you would have to swallow some pride, drop some ego, put your head between your legs, and some more, in order to get the help that is going to be required to change your situation. Do you know people that are unwilling to do that? I know people that would rather die than admit they were wrong. I know people that would rather go bankrupt than get the help from someone that they've spoken negatively about or whatever. And it's foolishness. It's really foolishness. And when you think about it, it's foolish. But we know if you think about it, you probably know 1 or 2 people that are like that. I am staying on this point, or probably stressing this point, because it's the same situation with health. I've been talking to people for, as you guys know, 20, 25 years about have to do things differently. We have to do this and that. And people would just, they would say some cruel things to me. Especially some of the people in the Christian community, because they'd be like, God can use you any kind of way, and He can. And that would usually have nothing to do with it, but it was the sidetracking. It was desperately looking for excuses to continue in the same behavior patterns that keep us ill, And at this point, when people are even dying in their illness or sickness, they've seen other people in the same situation reverse their situation by doing these type of things. But their ego, their pride, stupidity. At some point, it no longer is ego and pride. It's just stupidity. So let's take a look at this story, because this is a good story. This is a big story in terms of someone really having to change in order to get the help that he needed. And it's a good story because it talks about what we ought to do. So we're talking about a girl that was restored to life and a woman healed. So they put both of these together. We're only going to focus on verses 21 through 24 today. In 2 weeks, we'll do another 8 verses. And they read from the New King James Version. Now when Jesus had crossed over again, I'm going to be emphasizing some things I want you to listen to, because some of you are kind of, we've been in the church forever, all our lives, and we've heard some of these stories a million times, and so when we hear them, the familiarity with it doesn't allow us to hear. And so I want you to hear, and I'm going to emphasize some things that I want you to hear that you may not have paid attention to before, which are very important. It says, now when Jesus had crossed over again by boat to the other side, a great multitude gathered to him, and he was by the sea. And behold, one of the rulers of the synagogue came. Jairus by name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet and begged him earnestly, saying, "My little daughter lies at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, that she may be healed, and she will live." Wow, just like that. So Jesus went with him. And a great multitude followed him and thronged him. It's a lot going on in those three passages that I really don't think we pay attention to, because typically when we read the story, we read the whole story and we go to the climax of the story. Is the girl going to be healed as Jesus lays her hand on her? But look at everything that's happening before now. So where are we coming off of? We're coming off of the story with... These were here from yesterday. You guys been ordering True Pop? We're coming off of the story from last 2 weeks ago. The demon-possessed man. Remember the demon-possessed man that was living in the caves on the other side of the river, but the other side of the river that was predominantly engulfed with 10 cities, the Decapolis. And we talked about how those 10 cities were basically Greek. For the most part, they were in the whole Jewish realm, but they had their own coins, they had their own rules, they kind of worked a little bit with the Roman government, but they were one of their own. And Jesus told the man, after he healed him and brought him back to his right mind, and he wanted to follow Jesus in the boat and wherever Jesus was going, Jesus says, no, go and tell everyone what has happened to you. And remember, he's leaving him on this side of the sea where it's predominantly the Greek people who had not really heard of Jesus. And so now the gospel is beginning to be spread by the man that was once out of his mind, is now in his mind such that he is indebted to Jesus. He knows what he's done. He's a living testimony, and he's ready to go and spread the gospel by living proof. So in the very beginning of this passage, you gotta love this because you have to pay attention to be able to pick up on things like this. So the very beginning of this passage, it says, now the man goes and he spreads the gospel about what this man has done to him to a community of people that are not from the community of people that since they were infants, they knew that they were the chosen people, the Israelites, the Jewish people, the chosen ones, the first ones, And so you go and do this, and it says, now when Jesus had crossed over again by boat. What does that suggest? That suggests that he had been over there before. And maybe him going over there before hadn't had an impact. So the time that he went just recently, in order to begin to spread that gospel, for it to make and take root, he did what he did with this demon-possessed man, because he knew that this man was straight out of his mind, and unequivocally, in order for him to change his mind, he would have to see that he was no longer demon-possessed, because he just believed in his mind that his life was over because these demons had taken control of him. When Jesus asked him his name, he says, "My name is Legion." That means there are 10,000 of them in him. And so it says Jesus had already gone over there and tried to do that, but obviously folks weren't listening to him, so he had to give them something else. And that says a lot of things here. It suggests, first and foremost, that Jesus wants everybody to be saved, the Jew and then the Gentile. But also, he doesn't give up on us. Because a lot of times people, they don't want to come to church, they don't want to do this because they've tried that before. I think they think that you have to walk this perfect, narrow, whatever. You should strive for that. But if they fall off and they've learned a little bit about sin and a little bit of, they condemn them. Self-condemnation is the worst, and then the humility and the shame just takes over, and they can't hear you say that this is why Jesus died, for our sins, past, present, and future, And so Jesus doesn't give up. He continues to just try to, this way didn't work, so he went back again. And hopefully that way is starting to work. And now he's coming back again. Where? He's coming back again to these fools that he's been dealing with before. And look what happens. Why is he even in a boat? The boat now is his pulpit. The boat is where he's preaching. Why is he preaching from a boat? Why are the multitudes on the lake side by the sea? Because that is where he is. And why is he there? Because they put him out of the synagogue. So look at this. They put him out of the synagogue. Why? Because of his teachings, his preaching, and his healing. Because of what he was doing. Because of the reputation that he was establishing. Think about what's happening here. See, we don't think a lot. We don't think when we're doing a Bible study here. So it says, now when Jesus had crossed over again in the boat to the other side, a great multitude. Yeah. But here's the key. He says, and behold, and that's a clue right there. When it says, and behold, that's like, pay attention. Watch this. So next time you're studying Bible study and you see, and behold, that's like, okay, pause there for a moment because you may miss it. Because it's usually not anything big. That's why it's saying, and behold, to get your attention. And behold, one of the rulers of the synagogue, the very place where he can no longer preach, the people that are running it, the people that kicked him out, the person, and for it to say not just a man of the synagogue, not just a teacher of the synagogue, but a ruler of the synagogue came to him and says, can you come and help my daughter who is near death? So then there's some more stuff going on here that we have to pay attention to. Let's lay the foundation here for you. So my daughter is near death. What does that say? That says when my mom was in the hospital for 2 months after pneumonia, and by the 3rd day or 4th day, they were saying that she had the type of pneumonia that she wouldn't be able to survive, and they put her on a trek, and they said she wouldn't be there for a week. I remember we made sure that someone was there with her every single second. For the 3.5 months that she was in the hospital, not one single second was she not in the company of a family member. And each family member that was there at the end of your shift or whatever, I'm sure there was a heaviness that, which she transpired during the period in which you were gone. So you have this ruler of the synagogue that is willing to obviously swallow his pride, his dignity, any prejudices that he had against Jesus, which whether he had them personally, and this is the other thing, because, the majority rules, whether you're the ruler of the synagogue or not. If everybody else that is a teacher and another type of ruler in the synagogue is pointing, no, get this man out of here, a lot of times you go with the crowd and you've never even thought about whether you believe it to be right or wrong. You just, before you've had a moment to think about it. And we need to be careful that we don't get caught up in that, Don't come to me because CNN has decided that this should be or that should be. Give me the facts so that I can observe them both, analyze it, and determine for myself what particular position or stand I'm going to take, regardless of the fact that I am a Democrat or a Republican, an African American or Caucasian, or Christian or non-Christian, And we have to get back to that because now there's just a lot going on. And so this man not only gets rid of his pride, ego, arrogance, beliefs, or whatever was going on that allowed him to be a part of this group that put Jesus out of the synagogue. This man has left his daughter, who is at near death, to come to the lakeside. What does that say? So, if you are sitting with someone, a loved one that's near death, what happens when you just have to leave for a moment? There's some emergency or something that's bigger than that person's transition, especially if it's one that's lingering a bit. You've been sitting there, watchful and doing the 24-hour care thing for more than a few weeks. It might be a situation where you just need to leave. And so what would happen? What would that situation be that your best friend or a spouse or a relative couldn't take care of? Those are when you have your close friends, your people, you say, you know what? I'm not leaving my loved one here because they're very close to death. Now think about this. This is a father and it's his little girl. The little girl, the way that it's insinuated here when you look at the adjectives that were used to describe Mary when we were talking about Mary, you suspect that it was somebody that was not quite 12 years old. Because once you become 12 years old, and this time you start becoming a young woman. So he says, my little girl is at death. So he's leaving this little girl that's at death to come and seek out Jesus for himself, because he probably did not have a friend, family, or foe that would go and take care of that for him, so that he could stay by his daughter's bedside while one of them went and got Jesus and brought him to the bedside. Because they didn't want to have any part to do with that. And that's what we have to be careful of too, is that when we know we need help, a lot of times we know who can help us and where we can get that help. It may require, in addition to us swallowing some pride and some ego, but it also may require us standing up to our friends and going against our friends, because a lot of times friends will convince you to do the stupidity. And we fall right into it because we want to remain friends with them. And this guy is like, you know what? If you don't want to go and do it and help me out here, I am going on my own. And here's the most beautiful thing about it. He obviously knew what was going to happen, because it says, after he said, my little daughter lies at the point of death. Come, come. He's basically telling Jesus, come and lay your hands on her. It doesn't suggest that he was begging Jesus. It doesn't suggest that he was even asking him. He's almost commanding and demanding that this man come and lay. Not necessarily because he's bullying or anything, but because he's convinced that if you just come and do this, this is going to change everything. Not only is she going to be healed, but she's going to be brought back to life. And he's doing that on the assumption that Jesus is going to do just that. And look at that. And the way that he's doing just that. It says, come and lay your hands that she may be healed and she will live. And then what happens? It says, so. So means continuing in that flow. So Jesus went with them. It didn't say that Jesus entertained any conversation, any trepidation. It says, so Jesus went with him. We're trying to figure out how we're supposed to be in life, how we're supposed to deal with situations. We always look to the Gospel of Mark. It teaches us how to be disciples. And right here, it's teaching us in black and white that we are to take on the character of Jesus. This talks a lot about the character of Jesus. He didn't stop, put his hand on his hip and say, oh, I need an apology for you putting me out of the synagogue. Oh, weren't you the one that said such and such? You know, sometimes we need to get out of ourselves. Because just like in this situation, God is on the throne, God is in control. So even when people have to come to us with their head between their legs, instead of us saying, I told you so, instead of us having them kiss our feet, butt, or whatever, just give them the help that they need. And what is so beautiful about this is that this man took this risk, but it wasn't a risk. He's not going to leave his daughter on the chance that he's going to lose her in an effort that this might happen. He is confident and he's assured that Jesus, one, will not give him a whole bunch of flack or any flack. He will come. Not only will he come, but he will heal her. Not only will he heal her, but all will be well. That is a wonderful place to be for somebody that is supposedly in opposition of Jesus and what he can do. What does that say about us as believers who are supposed to know that Jesus has us in the palm of his hand, that we are not to fear anything, we're not to fear a lot of things that we're running around fearful of today, but we're to have that same kind of confidence and assurance. Imagine what our community and our church would look like. Imagine what type of power we would have and how we would grow if we actually believed like this man believed. He was sure, one, where to get his help. He was sure, two, how that help would come to him. That is pretty amazing. It's just emphatically, that's why I said these are 4 little scriptures that you can blow right over and you'll miss some precious jewels if you're not paying attention. Because that is what we need in life. We need to walk around with that type of assurance and confidence in who we are, whose we are, and who has the power to do that. And when we walk in that, this is what happens. the end of the story that you'll hear in a couple of weeks is just beautiful. But it was all predicated on somebody saying, you know what? I'm in great need, and I know who can provide what I need. And it's been contradictory to what I've been doing. But I am going to swallow up, forget about any prejudices that I have. And I tell people that too when we're dealing in communities that we're dealing with today. I said, you know, I would like to think that I wear rose-colored glasses to some extent. Because I know that there are other people out here that are believers in God. And they may not look like me. They may not be of the same political affiliation as me. But there's a connection there that is more precious than any other affiliation or association I have. And I have to go into that type of relationship believing that the God in you and the God in me is stronger than any other differences that we have, and all will be well. Until you give me a reason to think otherwise. But I have to at least think like that. And that's based on my knowledge of Jesus Christ. And if Jesus can do what he did for me, I'm sure he can do it for others, which changes us. And it's not all like, oh, I met Jesus today and now I'm no longer the person that I was yesterday. It's there's some things that are different. We have been transformed in the fact that our salvation is assured. But that process is just that. It's a process. But we are to be growing in that process on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis. We ought not be the same as we were last year, yesterday or last week. And these type of experiences help you to get to that point. See, this wasn't the internet days, because, had it been today, the man on the other side that had been demon-possessed and all the sheep that were drowned as a result of that somebody would have put that on Instagram or whatever, and so the folks over here would have known about it, and they probably would be like, yeah, I'll go grab Jesus while you sit here with your daughter. But that wasn't the case. And so they made their decision. This is pure speculation on my behalf. I'm just assuming, why would this man leave instead of having somebody else go get Jesus, especially if he knew that Jesus would come. And so that's just a wonderful story. That's all I wanted to talk about today, is that, pride, it says it goes before the fall. You just have to swallow that sometimes and be willing to do what you need to do to help yourself, to help those around you. And that, more importantly, that we move in that level of confidence that he's able. He came to walk in our footsteps. So not only has he had the experience to deal with the temptations that we've had, to deal with the things that we deal with in life, but more so, he has the power to change our situation when we appeal to him. And that's just a beautiful, wonderful thing to have in your possession, to have that, so that you have that confidence that says, you know what, everything is going to be all right. And that's good, because I was a praying sister yesterday, because everything in the world was going wrong before my little thing, and I was just like, you know what, God has me and this. And so it was. So things have just been crazy for the last 60 days. I've got stuff in the refrigerator. I try to go to the market every Saturday to get some nice, fresh grown things. I have tomatoes and stuff back there in the garden that I have just not even harvested, because the mosquitoes this year, they leave scabs. Something's going on. My dad keeps saying, they say they're poisonous. I know it's a lot going on, but I just haven't been way back yonder like I should. Plus, my brother's growing 1 million tomatoes, so I usually get his. And I've got cucumbers back there on the ground. He gives me cucumbers. But I go to the farmer's market to get my watermelons, and I pick up some other things. And so some of the things I picked up have just been growing out of control. So I have some carrots here that, I probably won't have a chance to juice, looking at my schedule for the next 2 days. I have some celery that's just on the brink. I have some fresh parsley that I didn't wrap. In order to maintain fresh herbs, parsley, cilantro, your herbs like that, when you purchase them, within a day or so, you need to come and you take a paper towel, and you run it under very, very cold water, if you don't even sit it in a freezer for like 2 seconds. And then you take the herbs. You don't have to rinse them until you're about to eat them. But you take the herbs and wrap them in the very cold paper towel, and then put them into a Ziploc bag. And then that way they will stay fresh for like 2-3 weeks. If you don't do that, most fresh herbs will start to wilt and they're just no good within 2-3 days. I mean, they're not expensive, but you know, it's still $1.50 and $1.99. So I've taken some things. I had some peppers. I usually sometimes buy the organic peppers, and sometimes, depending on what store I'm in, so I'll use the organic ones first. So I had some peppers that are still good, but they're starting to, you know, and again, I just know I won't have time to be doing too much of anything over the next few days. And I'm telling you this so that you too can begin to get to a point where you learn how to use what you have to come up with things. So this is going to be really easy. I made some lentil burgers at the beginning of the summer, and they were just off the chain fabulous. I think they had sprouted lentils. I put carrots, same things, some things that I had in the refrigerator. And hopefully I can go back and find the picture of the ingredients and do that again because I really enjoyed those. But I have a feeling these are going to be equally nice. But I want to reduce the time. I'm going to try to see if I can get some tennis in for a few minutes. I've not really picked up my tennis racket like I should going into a tournament. So I was like, what can I show you guys? So I took the stuff out of the refrigerator. Now, when you're doing things, you want to have something sweet, you want to have something sour, you want to have an acid, you want to do a fat, you know, to get like the establishment of your 4 legs of a table. And so you start just thinking about that. You literally can make things just like that. So we're going to do a burger. So we have our, what would be our grain, our nut. You know, when we do the carrot burgers, we have the carrot pulp that we use. And so we're going to use these sprouted chickpeas. But here's what I want to teach you. So I can chop up all of these ingredients here. I don't know if you can see them. We have the carrots, the celery, the parsley. I have red onion. I have some garlic. I have these peppers. I have a jalapeno pepper in here. I have some lemon. So I can chop up all of these things individually. It's going to take a minute. I didn't mean to have this white outfit on today. So I'm just going to wrap this here for a second. Just because. I don't even know where a cleaners is anymore. I don't go to cleaners. So we're going to, instead of chopping up everything individually, I've rinsed everything off. I'm going to show you just how quick we can make these. So sometimes you have things, it's all about texture in raw foods. When I do the carrot, I mean the walnut, one of the nut pates, and my favorite is walnut. But you can do almond pate, you can do sunflower pate, you can use any nut or seed. If I'm in a hurry, I'll put the ingredients into my little tabletop food processor. And just, it becomes thin, minced versus chopped. But it's going to save you about 30 minutes probably. And so that's what we're going to do. So we have these peppers. And then the heavier ingredients, which would be pretty much the chickpeas in this case, you're going to have to mix those with the smaller ingredients in a second. So we'll do that in the larger processor. But just to get us going, and you probably don't need more than 1/4 of a jalapeno. And like I said, these little guys are on their way out. So we just kind of chop off that part that's a little bit not as crunchy. Because usually I'll just pull the top out and I use the entire pepper. But I'm slicing off the top because these have been in the refrigerator a minute. So I'm going to take everything except the chickpeas and put them right into this little tabletop thing and show you how quickly that can be done. I'm going to go ahead and put the parsley. I had some parsley. I thought I had some cilantro. I have basil and on the back porch that I could have grabbed a couple of pieces. And then I have cilantro and parsley way back in the herb garden. But that little bit of parsley is going to be fine because the thing with burgers is that once they cook or dehydrate on the dehydrator, and you begin to eat it, depending on whether you want to wrap it in a cabbage leaf or stuff it in a pita bread pocket or whatever you want. Is this black? So we're going to pull off a big piece of the red onion skin because it's some color, some black tar looks like on there. So I'm not sure what that is. It's usually when it. So we'll rinse this. And we'll make it into some heavier chops. And just put that into the food processor, the tabletop food processor. Some people just go overboard because now I'm starting to put too much in here. But it should. These little guys are pretty good. Then I had some fresh garlic that I should have probably peeled before I saw you too. So I'll just tell you this. So whenever you're doing anything, if you can add fresh garlic and onion, it's like adding antibiotics and steroids or whatever, cortisone and a whole bunch of other stuff to your food. I mean, the medicinal properties associated with garlic. I always tell people, if you were my relative and you had garlic, I would slice a piece of garlic like that thin, put it inside of your cheekbone where your open veins are, and do that throughout the day. You can pull that out a few hours later. Wow. And its discoloration will tell you a lot about your health, your state of health. When I was dealing with my friends in South Africa, where the majority of the people there, or a large amount of the people there, have HIV, and we were trying to help them in the pain, we would use fresh garlic. And when we would take it out in just 30 minutes, it would be about as black as that little discoloration that I just saw on there. And when it turns black like that, it's a transference. So it's taking a lot of the toxic matter out of the system and transferring it to the garlic. The anisin that you find in garlic, which is readily available in onions as well, onions and garlic are of the same family, has so many healing properties, and they're very close to the same properties that you get in anisin, A-N-A-C-I-N, versus the natural occurring anisin that I'm talking about that you find in those two vegetables. So we've stuffed enough in here to kind of get us started. We want to use some fresh lemon juice. We're going to put some in the blender with the chickpeas, but I'm going to just squirt a little there as well. And just want you to see how much work this reduces things to. It would help if I plugged it in. I'm sitting there pushing a button saying, why isn't this working? So on these smaller ones, you'll have a chop and a grind. So what you want to do is you want to alternate between chop and grind so that it doesn't become really, really just, it's one thing that we're mincing it, but you don't want it to be liquidated, so to speak. So you just kind of rotate back and forth because I put too much in there. And so you're dealing with what's on the bottom being a bit overturned. And so all you have to do, and that's why I love doing things live, because you'll be home trying to do this and you'll run into the problem. And then you'll be like, this doesn't look like hers or this doesn't taste like hers because you've got this big piece of onion in one of your burgers instead of a combination of more mince. So I'm just kind of going through here and pulling the smaller pieces out. And then we're going to run those larger pieces through again. And we'll take some more of the medium pieces through. But you see that took like 2 seconds? That's what I'm talking about. And I chop pretty fast, but not that fast. Actually, most of these would be sufficient, except like this, if you got this like big chunk of garlic in there. For me, it's fine, but if you're probably entertaining somebody and they bite into that. One of my friends was like, I remember I had some of your veggie detox juice, and I swallowed a big old chunk of jalapeno pepper. Isn't that beautiful, the color and everything? It smells wonderful. So we'll put these big, large pieces back in. And then we're going to throw our carrots and celery in a second. But I just want to get that going. Let me do it. And it's a burger, so you want it to be on the heavier textured side. You don't want it to, you don't have, I guess the decision would be yours. But for me, I like a little texture, so I don't mind biting into a large onion or a piece of garlic or pepper or anything. Because the the chickpeas are going to be pretty macerated. So now we have all of our seasonings, and that's why I don't know if you obviously you can't smell it, but it's like my eyes are starting to water because of that jalapeno pepper and that onion and that garlic. And so here are my carrots that need to be juiced, and I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to just cut them a little smaller and throw them in. And remember, we talked about why carrots are so good for you. First of all, carrots are orange colored food, and orange colored foods do what? They're good for the skin. You want your skin to shine and glisten and all that. Eat plenty of carrots. So we're going to do that. But carrots have a lot of organic potassium. And what does organic potassium? Organic potassium is responsible for the intracellular fluid that helps our cells to remain balanced in the body. That's why carrot juice is so wonderful in terms of healing a whole bunch of different illnesses and diseases. Just drink lots and lots of carrot juice. It'll flush your system out really well, does the body well, the immune system. It's just like it's nothing else. Even if you look in major juicing books for healing, and they'll give you combinations of juices. It's like carrot and beet, carrot and celery, carrot and apple, carrot and lettuce, carrot and carrot. I mean, half of them are mixed with carrot. So then, as we're talking about the intracellular fluid, you have the extracellular fluid. And the extracellular fluid, say when your eyes start to burn, run cold water. So extracellular fluid, or sniff lemon, they say helps. Extracellular fluid is outside of the cells to keep the cells balanced, and the main food source for that would be celery. So we're going to not only have a great tasting chickpea burger, but we're going to be doing our body a lot of good because we're putting all these great ingredients in here. So we're going to take our celery, cut it up a little more because of this little processor. Mince that up nicely, add it to that bowl, and we're going to be almost done. And then I'm going to tell you another trick. So we add the carrots and all of those yummy condiments, the peppers and peppers and garlic and onion. And so the other thing is that now you have this wonderful base of intracellular food sources, carrot and celery, and then your onions and peppers and all that good stuff. So say you don't have the sprouted chickpeas. With this particular base, you can make anything. You know, it just depends on what you like. Say you have lentils or nuts. You can take that same food processor and put some nuts that you've soaked in there and combine it with this, and you'll have a nut pate. You'll have something that has great texture to it. It's going to feel like you're eating some kind of, meat dish. That's what it looks like. I've got one big giant chunk of celery in here, but that's fine. So we'll put that to the side. I hope I'm not taking too long. What you guys, by now, someone should be in the habit of saying, okay, what are the main tools, pieces of equipment Dr. Dallas uses on her videos? A blender, a food processor, the dehydrator, the knives, and the fork. I mean, there are only 5 or 6 things that I use, and I'm sure you have a kitchen larger than mine. Everybody does. So if you have those things around, what do we always use? Nuts and seeds and blah, blah, blah. And I just said, if you have that mixture, whatever you have around, you can add such and such. So you could be making this while I'm making it. And if you have any questions or something goes wrong, it'll be right there. So these were my 2-3 cups or so of sprouted chickpeas. I'm going to add just a little bit of water to get that going. I'm going to squeeze in just a tad bit of lemon juice. Just a tad bit. That's why I don't have the lemon juicer out. Just squeeze it in. And then I'm going to add, I'm going to get it going, and then I'm going to add a little of the tamari. So my blender is completely gone. I think you guys were here. The last time, what did we do? We made ice cream, and I had to use the blender. And I was like, why is this thing on overload? Maybe the bananas were too frozen. Well, when I had my watermelon, trying to blend it, so now we're going to add a little natural tamari, which you can use that or a tad bit of sea salt. And so the blender is completely on the blink. I'm going to put this big chunk of celery in here. It's completely on the blink, and I forgot about it, but the great thing about watermelon is that it's 96% water, so the overload button comes on like in 3 seconds. So I was convinced that I was going to get me some watermelon juice. So I just went like 1 second, 2 seconds, stop. And it literally takes about 20 seconds to juice sections of the watermelon. And I was able to get through about 1.5 gallons before I says, okay, I have to remember, make a mental note to order me a new blender. I've had that one who knows how many years. Okay, we're going to run this one more time, and then we're going to show you how to put it all together so that you can emulsify it. And so, and so what we have here is the majority of our burger, and that is in the sprouted chickpeas. So now what? You're thinking, okay, we just put the burger together. Almost. So a minute ago I talked about our emulsifier. So we know that when we're doing the carrot burgers, we usually use a few whole some sunflower seeds to give it more of that like meaty kind of texture on your tongue. We're not going to do that today. We're simply going to take our combination of herbs. We're going to put the chickpeas in. That becomes like your meat batter. Like if you're making a hamburger, your ground beef would be this. And then you too, for your ground burger, for your hamburger patties, I assume you would add some celery and onion. So it's pretty much the same, and you want to think like that. So it's just more about taking your favorite foods, substituting them. What would be a viable substitute? What can you use? And so when you think meat, you think nuts, grains, nut seeds, grains, and then just grind them down to a flour. So with the meat, hamburger meat, you have those little white strips in there. Most people will add an egg to get it to stick together. So once we start putting this together, you can see that we can easily make a patty out of that. But it's going to be really wet. And then it's going to sit on a dehydrator, and then it's going to end up being more like a flat pancake. So we want some texture, some volume to it. So we're just going to mix this together really quickly. And then what we do is we add the grounded flax seeds. And typically what you would do is blend flax seeds with water. But that becomes a mess with your blender, because when you add water to flax seeds, it really becomes like a glue very quickly. So we're going to sprinkle the grounded flax seeds in the combination, and we're going to stir that really quickly, and then we're going to add a little more, and then we're going to add some water, and then it's going to be more like pasty, so that it's in that glue type form or texture to be able to easily make the patties. And we're not going to make the patties. You've seen me do that with the carrot burgers, so it's the same process. So now we're going to sprinkle our water in here. You can add some whole flax seeds. I usually do that with the crackers. I don't necessarily like them in my burgers, the whole and ground. They're great with flaxseed crackers where you just use sun-dried tomatoes and fresh tomatoes. So this is our patty dough. Then you play with it and see how it does in terms of making a patty. You might want to add a tad bit of olive oil. Olive oil settles well with grounded flax seeds and water to make it bind more. You use a lot of flax seeds, you're going to have a really good, it turns it into a fiber burger. So you'll have good elimination as a result of consuming these. Yep, and you can always, if you want your mixture or your batter to be more moist or stiffer, then don't be afraid to add something like pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds. And see, this is actually very, because we mince, that's one of the reasons I don't mince my stuff as much. But that's a perfectly good patty. But it's gonna take longer to dehydrate. You won't get as many out of them. This will probably make about 25, 30 patties. And so it's good. It's wet enough. So instead of, when I do the carrot burgers, a lot of times I'll put it right onto the mesh sheet. These you'll have to use the Teflon sheet first to let the moisture really escape. And then maybe after 3-4 hours, then you add them onto the mesh sheet for another 4 hours or so. You can flip it onto the other side. And so those are what we would be, see how simple that is? And they're just beautiful. On a day that's warmer than today it's actually not a very warm day, but on a day where it's like next week, I think it's going to be 96 degrees, you literally could form them into patties like this and put them out into the hot sun and eat them the same day. Now what I would probably do, I'm going to make probably 10 patties, and then I'm going to take a large portion of that and make a loaf. Then you'll take some sun-dried tomatoes, some dates, and some fresh tomatoes, a little lemon juice, and put it into a blender and make yourself a nice sauce. So then you'll have like a meatloaf, and you can do different things with that. Take some little balls and make like little meatballs, and do some shredded zucchini, put the little balls, chickpea balls in there, put some sauce. I'll make some matte cream where I use the fresh cashews, lemon juice, raw garlic, and peppercorns. That makes a beautiful cheese sauce that's just fabulous. And whenever you're doing the zucchini shredded like spaghetti, then that tops it very well. And then it's always good to put a tablespoon on top of your burger, and then you can just eat it like that, or you can use some nice whole grain bread or whatever you want to do. So I hope that's been helpful. These are the last 4 or 5 things that I prepared for you guys that I've had to either refreeze, to make it stiff, or to dehydrate. Those cookies, the oatmeal raisin cookies that I put the blackstrap molasses in. Reminder, remember I said you need something sweet? So I'll either put a douse of this blackstrap molasses or a little raw honey in here. And so I'm thinking we'll go with the honey, just a tad bit. Maybe a good tablespoon or so for this much mixture. A little bit, the blackstrap molasses, man, when you put this on stuff, it's just taking all the dishes I've been doing to a different level. It's been very enjoyable. So I hope this session has been enjoyable for you. I hope that you can get beyond your pride, your ego, and things that you're moving along in life, that you're realizing that at one time you were adamantly opposed to it. It wasn't working for you then, but you maturing and you're coming to realize that you made a mistake, that you will just do the right thing to help yourself and your family, your friends, and your community. Happy Labor Day. The next time I see you, we will be moving towards back to normal. They're making people go back to work, school's back in, and so enjoy this long weekend, and we'll see you next time.